What is the nicest thing a stranger has done for you? After long delays, my flight was cancelled while I was standing in line at the gate to board it. Next day was my son's first birthday. I needed to be home. Went to the United desk and they refused to help me in any way. Not only could I not get another flight that day, but nothing the next day either. Despite the fact I was interneting the hell out of my phone and showing them all sorts of flights, direct and connecting, that would get me there, they were refusing, and I just didn't have money to go buy something else. I was starting to lose my cool. A guy in line stepped out after hearing me, told them he was some crazy status, and asked to speak directly to the manager. Next thing I knew, he was transferring his own ticket on a direct flight to me so I could get home to see my boy. I don't even know what happened. I tried to thank him in every way I knew how, and he refused to take anything from me. Just told me he knew how it was when he was younger and would have wanted someone to do the same for him. I hugged the guy, probably against his will, and ran and made his plane and was in a first class seat home. Seriously, dude was an angel, I'll never forget. My birthday one year was really sucking. I decided to go buy myself a cake at the grocery store and get it decorated because it was my birthday and I wanted something nice. When the guy at the counter asked who it was for, in retrospect he meant what name to put on it, and I said it was for me. He was incredulous that I had to buy my own birthday cake. I just kind of shrugged and went out to finish shopping for groceries. He said my cake would need to be paid for at pickup. When I came back to pay for and pick up my cake, a different person was at the register and she said my cake had been paid for. It was also decorated a bit more than I thought it should have been. I have not seen that guy working there since, and in my head I've called him the cake fairy. It was a good cake. I still cried eating it because the entire day sucked, but it was a good cake. Thanksgiving Day, 2003. I was driving down to my parents on Long Island from Buffalo, a 7 to 8 hour drive. As I'm about halfway, I get a blowout. The tire is just shredded. I managed to get the donut on and slowly got into the next town. Most of New York State is just farms and nothing. I stopped at every store that would conceivably have a tire, but nothing was open. I stopped at a police station. They told me to get a hotel until tomorrow. So I hop back into my car and try to make it to the next town. Try there. That's when my donut went flat. So I get out and start walking. It is 2003. I don't have a cell phone, so I knock on the first house I can find, hoping they'd let me use their phone so I can call my parents. The lady who answered the door invited me in, let me use her phone, offered me food, and then, to my complete shock, called her friend who owned a used car dealership, had them tow my car to the dealership, and put on a new tire, free of charge. I went from completely missing Thanksgiving and having to spend the night in some crappy hotel outside Binghamton to being back on my way within 2 hours. I'll never forget that lady. I've posted this before, but it's seriously one of the most wholesome moments of my life. In 1990 I was 19 years old, driving cross county by myself, and all I have is $63 and a Texaco card. I'm close to empty one night somewhere in Iowa and pull up to a Texaco station about 5 minutes after they closed. I was trying to only use my Texaco card and conserve what little cash I had. The person working the station wouldn't open to give me gas, so I decide that I'll just put all my clothes on. It was December and about 11 degrees and sleep in my car until they opened in the AM. About 2 AM I hear a tap on the window and I'm going to have to ask you to step out of the car. It was the sheriff. Duwak. I explained what was going on. He ran my ID to make sure I didn't have warrants or anything, and then ominously states, "That's not how we do things around here." OMG, I was terrified. How do you do things around here? What's going to happen to me? Apparently he was pissed that the guy at the gas station left me there. So he calls the owner of the gas station, makes him come down in the middle of the night and fill my gas tank for free. Then the sheriff calls his wife, lets her know what's going on, and she tells him to bring me over to their place. Mrs. Sheriff proceeds to feed me, let me take a shower and sleep there until the next morning. Then she feeds me again, packs me a lunch, gives me $20 in cash, and sends me on my way. It was seriously one of the most wholesome things that has ever happened to me. I was in a deep depression some years back, and I just decided to walk in the park. I had sat down for some minutes and a kid, who could not have been more than 4 years, came up to me and handed me 3 yellow sunflowers. This random act of kindness is one of the most memorable in my life. How sweet, especially from an innocent child. I'm sure my heart would have melted right there, if he only knew how much you needed that. And that he will never really know, that you will remember him forever. I helped a guy go through San at LaGuardia in New York City, around 2008ish. He'd never flown before, had no idea what he could take on the plane, how much, etc. Security told him he couldn't use his plastic bags he has his stuff in. Anyway, what rattled me was the fact that he was shoving pairs of very new Nikes into a trash bin. I couldn't fathom why, so I went to ask. He explained his situation, so I told him that if he held tight, I'd go through security, buy him a Karen, so he could get his stuff through. He handed me $100, and I gave him my crochet project bag to hold as insurance. Got him a suitcase, went back and gave him it and the change, and showed him how to go through, remove your belt and shoes, etc. He thanked me and we hugged, going our own ways. My flight was delayed by 3 hours at the last minute, and I was already exhausted. I used my purse as a pillow, and covered up with my coat, and fell asleep against a wall. When I woke up, there was a fuzzy travel blanket, convertible neck pillow, eye mask, a bag of cookies, and a little plush dog with a note tucked in his collar. He stuck this gift between me and the wall and never woke me up. I ended up traveling for 11 more hours and that thoughtful little package saved my sanity. Random airport dude, I'm glad you got to keep your kicks, and I still have the puppy. I named him LG. I bought my condo at 27 from a guy I've never met. There were a lot of offers way over asking price in a competitive market, but I offered what I could. I had lost out on many places before over months of searching, being outbid by ridiculous cash offers I had no chance of beating. I fell in love with this neighborhood and made 2 other failed offers here earlier, so I wrote him a letter just telling my story, how hard I tried to save everything I could to buy my first place and make a home and start really establishing myself. He ended up taking my offer over much higher bids because he bought this place decades ago when he was a struggling 27-year-old trying to establish himself, and my letter resonated with him. He probably could have made another $40K, but he wanted to give me the opportunity he had. I'm forever grateful. I was on the bus freaking out about how I was going to feed my fiance and as I was the only person working a 100% commission job. A stranger heard me on the phone freaking out on the verge of tears and politely alerted me I had dropped some money. It was $40 and me and my fiance used every penny. I never got to thank them, but I quit that job I think a week or so later and found something way more stable. That's awesome. My dumb self would argued with the guy that the money wasn't mine, clearly not seeing what a nice gesture they were trying to do for me. When I was 9 or 10 I missed the school bus. This big guy picked me up and ran towards the bus screaming to try to make the bus stop. It eventually did, and he put me inside of it and then dipped. I couldn't even say thanks. And I was a chubby one no less. That last line cracked me up. That guy is a champ. I was at a bar with my then girlfriend. Seated next to us was an older gentleman who was alone and looking forlorn. After a time, he tapped my girlfriend on the shoulder and said, "I like the way you two talk to one another. Here's what I'm going to do. I spent a fortune on these tickets for my wife. Unfortunately, she can't go anymore, and I just don't feel like going without her. So I'd like you two to have them. The only catch is that the concert starts in 20 minutes. He didn't elaborate, nor would he accept payment. He asked only that we go, enjoy ourselves, and keep being good to each other. He paid his tab and left, and that's how I got front row seats to Prince. Was a groomsman in a wedding and my flight got delayed, like really delayed. So bad that Delta brought out the "We Are Sorry" care packages and complimentary pizza. Towards the 7th hour I started getting pissed that the front desk wasn't giving us answers. Well, when I was going off, some 7-foot tall diesel looking black guy saw me, got in line for the complimentary pizza, and handed me the plate. I ate it, and reflected on what a prick I must have been. Later he found another flight, and was kind enough to ask the front desk women to book 2 tickets instead of 1. He gave me the other ticket. Apart from the nod I gave him once we got off the plane, I never saw that dude again, or even learned his name. I made it to the wedding just in time. When I was 11, I was stupid enough to cross in front of a bus with only a cursory glance backwards, and I missed the minivan that had just started to overtake the bus. I got hit by the left-hand corner and flung across the road, injuring my legs. My knee still hurts sometimes all this time later, and splitting my lower lip. As I lay there, a lady who I had seen on the bus a few times came over and helped me over to the curb, checked me over, made sure my parents were called, made sure an ambulance was called, and generally looked after a scared, tearful, hurt little boy. She was wonderful, and I still see her around to this day, and she always gives me a big smile when I wave hello.